US President Donald Trump has vowed to permanently pause all immigration from third world countries following the horrific attack on two young National Guards in Washington, D.C., which left one dead and one critically injured. Trump responded after authorities identified 29-year-old Afghan national Rahimullah Lakanwal as the suspect. He posted on Truth Social saying, "I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the US system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's autopen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign nationals who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization." These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto-pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Trump then doubled down, proving he has the authority to permanently pause immigration for third world nations, saying, Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212F. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such a period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. The president was then pressed about the new policy by the press pack on Air Force One.
The people from different countries that are not friendly to us, and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them.
What are you talking about?
You got to talk up.
She said how many countries? Is there a list?
Well, I guess we gave you 19, right? There's probably more than that.
Is that what you mean when you mean third world countries, those 19?
No, I don't think they're all third world, but in many cases they are third world. They're not good countries. They're very crime-ridden countries. They're countries that don't do a good job. They're countries that don't register from the standpoint of success. And we, frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about denaturalization,
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
The president then went further as he rammed home his message, reposting a graph showing the foreign-born share of the US population is now higher than it has ever been in recorded US history. But not everyone is happy with Trump's new policy, with left-wing commentator Ro Kahana slamming Trump for his stance, saying Trump's threat to ban immigration from third world countries, an outdated term, is returning to a pre-1965 America, where immigration from nations like India was severely restricted. My parents would not have been welcome. His threat to revoke citizenships to those who views as a non-compatible after how hard immigrants from places like Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala have worked to earn citizenships is callous and frightening. What may be a casual rant on social media by the president is devastating to millions of hard-working, law-abiding immigrant families. They are reaching out scared. This is not the time for politicians to cave. But founder of Veteran Action and Afghan veteran Mark Lucas is completely behind Donald Trump.
President Trump is making the right call to pause all immigration. And I'll tell you that ordinary American citizens cannot fathom the evil that we as Afghan veterans saw in Afghanistan. These people are unvettable. They will not fit into our culture. And as a platoon leader, I had to conduct these key leader engagements with my supposed allies. And they would have these young boys, these chai boys that would serve us tea, and they were sold into sexual slavery to these pedophile men. And also my women that are attached to my unit, the female engagement team, all three of them just so happened to be blonde. We had to constantly protect these women from Afghan locals and our allies in the Afghan National Security Forces. If we wouldn't have done that, they would have been beaten and they would have been raped. Now, many of the men I served with in Afghanistan were courageous. I admired a few of them, but I couldn't trust any of them. And we need to deport all of these people as soon as possible to protect our homeland. We should have never brought him into our country to begin with. We couldn't hardly vet these people in theater. There's a different type of vetting when you're on a combat battlefield where it's quicker, it's expedient, and we expect these guys to fight a mutual enemy. But the vetting to bring somebody into our country is wildly different. These people do not assimilate. They don't love America. They don't respect our Constitution. They don't respect our norms. They're coming here to dominate. And if we don't quickly deport these people, including this guy's wife and children after they're interviewed, we will see more attacks on service members. We were promised during the global war on terror that we were going to be able to fight the enemies of the United States on foreign soil so we wouldn't have another 9/11. Well, we just lost one service member. How many more service members are we going to have to lose because we're adhering to some politically correct political ideology on immigration?
And while some are supporting the move, MS Now had a meltdown.
Well, it's not just Donald Trump or Stephen Miller or this greater White House. Some Republicans in Congress are calling on Trump to end all Muslim immigration, and I want to make sure I have it right, and quote, deport every single Islamist who is living among us just waiting to attack. Stuart, doesn't that language only ignite anti-American sentiment in parts of the world or among people who are living here?
Sure, and it's a fundamentally anti-American concept that we're going to pick people out by religion and deport them. It goes against the whole concept of why there is an America. And it's extraordinarily appalling and offensive to what it means to be an American. And look, Steph, I have to point out as someone who worked for former President Bush, when 9/11 happened, 2 days later, I believe, he went out and said that to Moscow, we cannot attack those who are of a different religion. And, that was consistent with what was once a Republican sort of threshold belief, that you blame the person who is the criminal, not the circumstances, that there has to be some sense of personal responsibility. And the party used to believe in that, or at least we said we did, apparently we didn't. And this sort of scapegoating, I mean, after the Vietnam War, there were thousands, tens of thousands of Vietnamese who came to America, who had fought and been allied with Americans. Some of them created Vietnamese gangs. There's Vietnamese crime problems. But does that mean it was wrong? Of course it doesn't.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to take a deep breath on this one. If only we could be spending this hour, these hours, these days, just thinking about the victims. Jeff, Stuart, thank you for starting us off this evening.